Hello and welcome to Fast Horses Today for Thursday. It is the start of the race week over at Santa Anita. And, let's just say, the racing schedule over at Santa Anita has been very choppy, due to their weather conditions over there in Southern California. So, first of all, hopefully everyone is safe there in Southern California and throughout California, throughout the West Coast. I've had a lot of rain up and down. But, I know whenever there's a good amount of rain, they're going to have a propensity to cancel the races over at Santa Anita. So thankfully, looks like they're going to have some nice California weather this upcoming week. They're going to have a 4-day schedule starting on Thursday, January 8th. So let's get started and talk about some horses over at Santa Anita for their start of the race week. So we're going to move over, skip over the first couple races, and we're going to go to the fifth race. I have a late pick 5 that I want to play in Thursday's card. And that late pick 5 does start in the fifth race there. It has approximate post time about 2:09 Pacific, so that's 4:09 here in the Central Time Zone. We're going to start out with a 6-furlong grass race on that flat grass course. This is an allowance race, a second-level allowance race. These are for fillies and mares. Now, I feel this is a tough card, for a few different reasons. I think, they scheduled some nice races. They've got probably a bounty of horses right now, considering that they've had to miss several days. But, in missing those days, there's also been missed days of training. So you'll see some spotty workout, reports from there because the track's been closed to training. So, horsemen are not able to get their horses over for time workouts. So that's another factor in handicapping. We'll see how that goes and how that affects things. The closest comparison I'd have to that is I know that at Oaklawn, that does happen when Oaklawn gets bad weather, and they'll, be closed for a bit, and training also gets closed, and it just kind of wreaks havoc on the races and the ability to see who might be fit when race day comes. So we're taking that into consideration, and in our picks here. So as I mentioned, I do have a late pick 5. Start out in this fifth race here at Santa Anita. I've got 3 horses to get this thing started. Now, this race, as I mentioned, it's a 6-furlong grass race on that flat grass course. There looks to be a ton of speed in this race. I mean, out of the entire field of 8 horses, it looks like 5 or 6 of them can go to the lead. They've shown high speed. So, I don't know that all of them will, certainly, but we'll see how many of them do. But, given that, being the case, I've got 3 horses here. I'm going to put the 1 horse who is Hoshiana. Hoshiana comes out of the Mike McCarthy barn. Kazushi Kimura takes the call. Now, there's a new face to California. This horse had been running over in Woodbine over there in Canada, running some nice races. Certainly Mike McCarthy is a trainer to beware of. You can't take Michael McCarthy off of your cards there because he does certainly win a lot. He's a very, very capable trainer, one of the best in the country right now. So he brings this one in from Canada. The horse seems to be training nicely and, has a kind of a late running style, it looks like here, which I think could fit given all the speed here. So I can see this horse finishing up quickly. She's shown a propensity to move nicely towards the end of races. That's how she won a nice allowance race at Woodbine on a 6-furlong flat grass race. So I think that the style of this race could set up nicely for the 1 Hoshiana at 10-1. We'll put her in there. Gonna also put the 6 horse being Tahini. Now Tahini comes out of the George Papapadromo barn. Victor Espinoza into ride. So it looks like Victor Espinoza is back in Southern California, it seems. So we'll see what he'll do with his return back to Southern California. Now Tahini has raced up against what seems to me is much better fields than what she's facing today or on Thursday. And the George Papapadromo barn has come out kind of hot. So Georgie P, as they call him, he's a streaky guy. So when things seem to be going well for that barn, it's hard to go against him. When things go cold for that barn, it seems to be easy to go against him. So you can kind of, do what you want with that info. But that just kind of seems the way it goes with that particular barn there. So, he started out a good meeting here at Santa Anita. Now this horse, has been, a bit out of form lately. She hasn't won in a bit. But as I mentioned, I think she's been facing better. And, she's also shown speed, but she's shown some speed in longer races. So maybe she'll take back a little bit. It's not that Victor Espinoza is that big send speed rider anymore. So, maybe he'll find himself a spot and finish up well with Tahini. She's also a long shot at 8-1. And then finally, I'm going to put what looks to be the program favorite in the 7, Gratefully. Gratefully is 9-5 in the program. Umberto Rispoli takes the call, and this horse trained by Robert Falcone. Now, Robert Falcone, if you're not familiar, he really trains primarily in the East, but, in years past, Robert Falcone has come to Santa Anita, for the winter meet, and he's done that, several times and had some, some mixed results. I mean, I think there was a couple of seasons where he had done well and others he had not, but, I think in this day and age and the climate of the racing scene there in California, I think it's a good idea for Robert Falcone to bring horses. I think that he'll do a nice job. Now, this horse certainly, brings a nice resume, having 3 for 3 starts and wins. So, she's done everything right in her career. If you watch the film in her last race, boy, what a bang-up race she ran there in a turf sprint over at Aqueduct. It's just visually an impressive race, and I see that, she got a very nice high-speed figure, Beyer figure of 89. So she runs a race like that, she's going to be really tough in this type of race. But we'll see, as I mentioned, there's a lot of speed. Sometimes that California speed is just better than the East Coast speed. So we'll see. I don't know. We'll see how hers translates and what style that she ends up running. But, just based on her races and the talent she's shown, maybe she'll be just better than this field. So we will put Gratefully in. She will be the program, or she is the program favorite. I'm sure she'll be the betting favorite, that being the 7. So we've got the 1, 6, and 7 to start off that pick 5. All right, now let's move over to the 6th race of the day. 6th race is a 6-furlong dirt race. These are maiden special weights. These are California bred races. And, these are 3-year-olds, so newly turned 3-year-olds. Happy birthday to all the horses back a week ago on January 1st. We appreciate all the horses that are racing at Santa Anita and all around the country. So, belated happy birthday to you all. So, these are new 3-year-olds, and they're going, as I mentioned, 6 furlongs. They're Calbreds. So, I've got 4 horses I'm going to put in here. We'll see if one of these horses gets it done. I think they could. We got a long shot here in a 5-horse Positive Times. Positive Times in from the Ryan Hansen barn. Now, Hansen horses have been running nicely at the start of this Santa Anita meeting. He puts his guy Escobedo on the horse, and you probably can recall, I'm a big fan of Escobedo. I think he does a really nice job. He's a very good speed rider. He rides for Ryan Hansen. I think these guys make a nice pair. This horse comes off a really nice workout in his last. Having a 59 and change from the gate should make this horse very ready to go in this California maiden special weight. So nice works, but I like that last work. We'll see if it might be go time. And, as I mentioned, Escobedo's a very good speed rider. So maybe just all systems go, green light, get the horse out. Positive Times, could be very tough. Positive Times is 15-1. Going to also put the 6-horse in, who is Joker Went Wild for Brian Corner. Brian Corner puts a new face on the horse in Belmont. Now, I don't know a whole lot about Belmont. I know that Belmont's been riding in California now for, I think it's been a couple months. It's shown some ability, so we'll see. What ends up becoming of this jock, and if this jock can stay there in Southern California as a regular. The horse Joker Went Wild has run twice in his career. Last time the horse was a favorite, had come off a nice race. 2 times at Del Mar. First race was a nice race. Ended up getting bet on and probably bounced a bit, which that does happen to some of these starters that have had a first race. They bounce off that. So I think that's maybe kind of what happened. The horse just kind of ran an even race as a favorite. Probably disappointed a lot of people in their multi-race wagers or win wagers. So I see the horse is 4-1 here. Might get overlooked a bit. And I think Joker Went Wild could probably, show up here and beat this field. I don't know that there's going to be any superstars coming out of this field. So the 6-horse Joker Went Wild can certainly get it done. We'll move over to the 9-horse, who is Tommy Norris. Tommy Norris for the Librado Baraccio barn. Baraccio puts Edwin Maldonado on the horse. Now, I remember last year around this time, Baraccio's horses were really doing well, and he was winning a lot of races. So we'll see if it's a seasonal thing for this horse. So he's certainly a capable trainer. This horse, had been running in the maiden special weights. Ranks there back in the summer at Del Mar. Does show a second at Santa Anita. So this horse is certainly knocked around this level. We'll see if, being a newly turned 3-year-old, the addition of Lasix, as all of them do get that Lasix as 3-year-old horses. 9-2 in the program. I don't know if speed and getting the lead is the plan here. This horse does come off a mile race over at Los Al back in December. So we'll see, what the tactics will be. But Maldonado, absolutely capable rider. We'll see, maybe this horse at 5-2 will be good enough. That being Tommy Norris. And then finally, we'll put the first starter here, which is Red Hot. Red Hot for Luis Mendez, Juan Hernandez. Now, Mendez, I know historically has been very good with first-time starters. Now, if you look at his stats, it's showing a 0 there. And I guess in the last year, he hasn't done what he normally does. It's just get starters ready and get them going that first race. I'm going to overlook that sample size, and I think that, going back to what Luis Mendez does is get horses ready to go first time. He works horses fast. He puts, gets a lot out of the workouts. Juan Hernandez takes the call at 7-2. We'll see. This horse might just be better. Big purchase price for a Calbred, $130,000. So, they'll be looking to get their money back on that and maybe getting a maiden win, first time out. So we'll put Red Hot in there. So we've got the 5, 6, 9, and 10 there in the 6th race. All right, now let's move over to the 7th race of the day. 7th race, your co-feature. It's the Robert J. Frankel Stakes. It's named for the legendary trainer Bobby Frankel. They're going 1 mile and 1/8 on the grass. And this is a grade 3, and it's a $100,000 race, and these are fillies and mares, 4-year-olds and up. And, I just, some nice horses in this field, but I do have a single here. I think if she runs her race, she looks to be a, stand over these, and that being the 1-horse Public Assembly. Public Assembly comes in for Phil D'Amato. Umberto Rispoli takes the call. Now, she shows a nice record over at Santa Anita. 3 starts, 2 wins on the grass there. And, she just shows nice turf races. She's been in nice form, over the last couple years. She seems to be showing up every time she runs, no matter the distance. Last time out, she ran in a little bit longer race in the red carpet over at Del Mar. Red carpet stakes. She lost on the wire to Mrs. Astor. Mrs. Astor would probably be a prohibitive favorite in this race. So, she's run well at Del Mar. She's run well at Santa Anita. And I just think that her best should be better than most of these horses. She is going to be your favorite. She's a program favorite at 9-5. So we'll just put Public Assembly in as a single. I think she'll be better, than most of these here. And let's see if she can get it done for us as a single. The second choice, Paradise Lake. I do like Paradise Lake as a horse. I caught Paradise Lake nicely back in the spring. I know that was Frankie Dettori on her that day. I know Juan Hernandez is riding her on Thursday. We'll see if what she could do up against this field. She is running in a stakes race. Second time in a stakes race. She has done well with allowance condition. But I think the move up, I don't know that Paradise Lake is as good as Public Assembly. So again, we'll single the 1-horse Public Assembly in the Frankel Stakes in the 7th race. All right, now let's move over to the 8th race of the day. Now the 8th race I find really tough. I think the 8th race is where we're going to get a possible long shot here. The 8th race is a first level allowance race with an option to claim for $50,000. They're going 1 mile on the dirt here. And, I just think it's an open field. If the Baffert horse, that 5-horse doesn't get it done, I think we'll see, your prices. You've got some horses that have shown some ability. They've shown ability to win races at this level, at this distance. They might get overlooked, and that's where your price comes in and really can boost up your pick 5. So I'm going to put 5 horses in this race because, as I mentioned, I do feel it's wide open. We'll see if we can get a price. I'm going to put the 1 horse who is Big Bet Chaffin Safa for Carla Gaines. Ayuso takes the call. Now, this horse has shown a nice ability over at Santa Anita on the dirt. Has won a couple races, and they've tried turf with Big Bet Chaffin Safa, but it looks to me like his better races have been on the dirt. So 10-1, we'll include this horse here. This horse had been knocking around at this level. Run some even races. Maybe Thursday will be the day. We'll put the 2 horse who is Cop for Michael McCarthy. Michael McCarthy puts Ismael Jaramillo on the horse. Now, we saw Jaramillo get a win last time Santa Anita ran. Now, Jaramillo, we talked about him. He's a jock who was very accomplished over there in Florida and decided to take his tack out to Southern California. Expect him to win, many races during this winter meeting at Santa Anita. We'll see if he becomes a regular on the Southern California circuit or if he's just spending the winter over there in Arcadia. So Cop has a shot here. First one-time winner in the maiden ranks on the turf. I'll trust Michael McCarthy that McCarthy, sees fit to put this horse on the dirt. This horse is 15-1. Good price play. We'll put this horse in there. I'm going to put the 5-horse, who I'm expecting is going to be the favorite in Normandy Landing. Big purchase price here. This horse cost over $1 million a few years back for the Bob Baffert barn. Kazushi Kimura on the horse. So this horse, apparently has had some issues, having only 5 starts as a 5-year-old horse and being a big purchase price. So we'll see if they put this horse on the comeback trail. Last time out, they had this horse in a sprint race, ran a really nice race there at 6.5 furlongs at Los Al. I don't know if that was just maybe a tightener to make this horse, to get this horse ready to go long. I would expect long distance is where this horse wants to be, being by gun runner out of a Pleasantly Perfect mare, so I think the longer the better for a horse like Normandy Landing. So at 5-2, we'll include Normandy Landing. Then I'm going to put the 8 horse in. The 8 horse is Delmar Jerry for Stephen Miotti, Edwin Maldonado. This horse has been knocking around in the higher claiming ranks and the allowance ranks, has shown some nice races, has gotten some big-time speed figures, does show a good record at Santa Anita, having two of his lifetime wins at Santa Anita out of 4 starts on the dirt there. Certainly does like the mile distance. 7-2 is no secret here. I guess if this horse runs similarly to what he's done in his previous races, it'll put him squarely in the mix here. He's got some high buyers that are tower over some of these. We'll see if that'll translate for Thursday. And then finally, we'll put the 9 horse, who is Katona. Katona for the Doug O'Neill barn, Tiago Pereira here on the horse. Now, this horse has done most of his damage at Santa Anita on the dirt. 4 of his 5 wins are at Santa Anita on the dirt. And, this horse has certainly faced a lot of really good fields and a lot of really nice horses. They even thought enough, they sent this horse over to Dubai last year to run in the Dubai World Cup. So, didn't go too well there. The horse has really just kind of run average at best since that. But, maybe the time off. They ran this horse back on the 28th, which could serve a good purpose. As I mentioned, a lot of workouts have been, scrapped and not happening over the last week or so at Santa Anita. So maybe the fact that this horse turns back, after, running on December 28th, could put this horse squarely in the mix at 5-1. Doug O'Neill, certainly a capable trainer, so we'll put the 9 horse Katona. So we've got the 1, 2, 5, 8, and 9. All right, now let's move over to the last race of the day. Last race is the 9th race. It's a mile on the grass. This is a maiden $50,000 claiming race for 4-year-olds and up. So $50,000, you see, it's a big price, but really it's your bottom rung there for turf maidens there, in the claiming ranks in Southern California. So this is your bottom rung for turf horses in Southern California. And in these races, sometimes it's very challenging. We'll see who pops, who could show up that day. So I'm going to put 3 horses in. I feel like one of these 3, should cover us. If our ticket's live, I think, one of these 3 can pay us off here. I'm going to put the 2 horse, who is Sweet Odyssey. Sweet Odyssey comes in for the Phil D'Amato barn, Mirko DeMoro on the horse. Now, DeMoro takes over. Frey Sue was on this horse the last couple times. I know Frey Sue got injured, so we wish him a speedy recovery. But, Mirko DeMoro certainly ridden well lately and certainly ridden well on the turf. So this horse comes off a couple second place and the 3rd place finish in the same type of level. So certainly fits here, Sweet Odyssey. I'm expecting Phil D'Amato's horses to probably pick it up. He started the meet 0 for 9. Can't really expect that to happen for a trainer like him at Santa Anita, and especially on the turf. Sweet Odyssey, 3-1 here, certainly could fit. Or, I'm going to put this horse in here. Going to put the 4 horse, who is Midway Lane. Midway Lane comes in for the John Sadler barn. Kyle Frey takes the call. Now, this was a big purchase price here. They paid $250,000 for this horse, $250,000. Nicely bred horse by Quality Road out of an Indian Charlie mare. Certainly, turf could help this horse. This horse has 1 start to his record, that being a 1 start in a sprint race in a 6.5 furlong dirt sprint over at Del Mar. That was a very fast race won by Simply Song. And that was a see how live that race was. Simply Song did not come back to win in his next start, but that was a big time race that he ran there. Very fast fractions and some big numbers produced out of that race. So, I've talked about this before. This might be a panic drop. Sadler doesn't give horses away, but, I don't know that this is a very talented field. So Midway Lane might be the type of horse. We've seen this before. We've seen Kyle Frey do this, who's riding the horse, get the horse out on the lead, go 2 turns on those maiden claiming races, and wire fields. It happens quite a bit at Santa Anita in this level. This horse shows that, coming off that fast race, might just go ahead and do that. And we'll see if all the other horses just kind of run in place. So we will put the 4 horse Midway Lane at 7-2. And then finally, I'm going to put the 9 horse, who is Iron. Iron comes out of the Michael McCarthy barn. Michael McCarthy legs up Ricardo Gonzalez. Gonzalez has ridden this horse the last few times. Now, this horse drops in from maiden special weights into a $50,000 claim as well. This horse has had 5 starts, hasn't been able to get it done at the special weight level. So I just feel like a trainer like McCarthy, there's some guys, I mentioned panic drop, but there's other trainers, when they drop them, they're putting them where they need to be to win. So McCarthy, I feel, does fit that profile. When McCarthy drops horses into claiming, they're usually live. I don't know what becomes of them after that, but they're usually live and they can win when they do that. And since we're betting here, that's what matters to us. I don't know if any of the viewers are out there claiming horses. If they are, you might look at things differently. But I think Iron at 8-1 with the drop into these 50,000 claimer. Putting blinkers on, they're making a couple changes here. McCarthy, I feel, does pretty well with dropping horses. So Iron, I think, fits here based off the races that he's run with some better. So we'll put the 2, 4, and 9. All right, now let's recap the day and recap the bets. Okay, so for Santa Anita, for the start of the race week on Thursday, January 8th, we've got a late pick 5, which does start in the 5th race. We'll start this pick 5 off with the 1, 6, 7, with the 5, 6, 9, 10. With the single of the 1, with the 1, 2, 5, 8, 9, with the 2, 4, and 9. Now that ticket is a $90 ticket. I feel it's worth it for that price. I think there's going to be some prices. We're going to see if we can get that single home there in the Bobby Frankel race. And if we could, we might have a nice chance at a nice payoff here on the start of the race week. So if you decide to play it as is, I wish you the best of luck. You can always add or subtract to it. You can play the pick 3s within it. Whatever you decide to do, I wish you the best of luck. Let's wish the folks over at Santa Anita a very safe day of racing to start their race week on Thursday. Let's wish ourselves some good trips and some good luck, because we all know that could result in some nice winners. So as always, I thank you so much for watching Fast Horses today. Please do me a favor if you haven't done so. Hit that subscribe button. You can always like, dislike, make good comments, make bad comments. I promise to respond to everything. Well, let's create a discussion. So again, thank you so much for watching. Let's start this race week off at the Great Race Place with some winners. And again, thank you so much. And we'll be up for some more coverage the rest of the weekend. Have a wonderful day.